Hello and welcome to the Pay It Forward podcast with Payable. I'm Doug McKenzie and today I'm going to be speaking with Roland Ludwig from Selecta. Now, with seamless payments becoming increasingly important in almost every industry, I'm very excited to find out how it's impacting the food tech scene. So, Roland, how are you doing?
Hi, Doug. Thanks. Good morning, and thank you for having me. I'm doing great. Looking forward to the show.
Absolutely amazing. Now, Roland, could you please tell our viewers a bit more about your role at Selecta, please?
Of course. Look, I started as CTO back in 2020. Back in the days, there was a clear focus on digitalization. So basically, making sure that also from our ends, building a central IT function, implementing new business critical applications. And later on, it was more around the whole part about connectivity of our POS, of our point of sales. Very, very proud to say that nowadays we have more than 130,000 devices connected via an IoT device.
Wow.
This to do lots of great things, such as better steer on our operations, on our machine in the field, all across our 14 Selecta markets. And later on in 2022, I took over the role as the COO and Chief Operating Officer to basically improve our digital capabilities more from a day-to-day operational perspective. And that basically meant efficiency gains in terms of how we do the planning, the operations, the refilling of our machines, our smart vending machines, our traditional vending machines in the fields, and basically also how we interact with our field staff, our personnel in the fields. And here, basically, as an example, we implemented a single device strategy so that our staffs in the field basically can see everything from where do I need to go, how many items would I need to refill with a single click on the mobile device. And obviously other great innovations, specifically in the client experience centers, our client care centers, how to further drive communication towards our clients and consumers.
Well, it's absolutely fascinating to see an organization that has had a CTO as both their COO. So you really have such a comprehensive view of what really makes Selecta tick. And I guess that helps give you the kind of perfect answer to this next question, because it's something that all our viewers on the show kind of really want to understand. How do you actually determine which payment methods are right for your smart fridges, your vending machines? I mean, even within Europe, payments is so fragmented, right?
Right, absolutely. I think it's a great question, Doug. Thanks for that. I think when we start basically quickly trying to understand how we do this in Selecta, I think it's always a bit of a balancing act between multiple factors. So in an ideal world, we basically would offer all sort of available methods that basically would guarantee that we are not missing out on a single consumer out in the fields, because we are not offering all the variety of the payment solutions. In our case, basically, it's more an analysis that we're going to drive up front for installation, for basically really putting one of our smart vending solutions in place. So, for instance, in the case of Europe, we specifically run assessments in terms of demographies, in terms of what's the client's industry he's operating in. Is it more private or a public operating client? So all of these factors basically make us to come to the decision: what's the ideal setup for that specific consumer? Typically, Doug, we distinguish between cash payments, bank cards, mobile payments such as Google Pay, Alipay, but also obviously cryptocurrency, and then what we call closed loop. I think that's a bit of a specialty across Europe, that sometimes you have company badges and our consumers to basically integrate their batch-based payments processes in the operations and specifically the payment of the solution.
Absolutely amazing, yeah. And to your very first point, I can imagine the organization that tries to, do every payment method would never ever be finished, because alternative payment methods seem to be truly jumping in. But it seems like you've really grasped the kind of the gravity of the situation, and it's quite exciting to see the work you've put in. Now, you've talked about different demographics. Can I just get a quick answer in terms of, is it very region specific? Do you see, I know you're based over in Switzerland, but do you, for instance, see that when you send your smart fridges to the UK, are they very different to the ones you'd send, for instance, to Poland?
Yes, absolutely, Doug, absolutely. So specifically, the further north we go within Europe, we see that the acquaintance and also the clear consumer demand to have payment solutions is much higher than basically in a country like Spain or Italy, right?
Yeah.
So this I think it's more terms. And then specifically when we talk about industry segmentations, we also clearly see that, for instance, in airports, we would need to provide much more variety in terms of card scheme, in terms of all kind of payment solutions. Whilst, for instance, I mean, I give a typical example, a local school system here across the corner in Switzerland. Obviously, here we need to make sure that we specifically allow mobile payments. As an example, for instance, in Switzerland, we have a local scheme called Twined. And obviously, that's something that you definitely need to put in place. Otherwise, you're just missing out on local clients.
Incredible. Yeah, it's going back to that customer demand point, really. It's almost gone beyond operational. It's now an actual demand point. Now, this is a question I know as well our viewers are going to be so excited to hear. And I'd like to split it up into 3 segments if I can. So as CTO, I'd love to know what payment trends you see becoming mainstream and some that you see maybe less important. For instance, you see facial recognition, biometric payments, mobile payments. If I could ask you to tell us what you think will be the most important, one that will be important for the future, and one that you don't see taking off. Would I be able to fragment it in that way?
Absolutely. So I think this is also great to see that you basically so Doug, how we respond to that question is specifically when we look into the younger generation.
Yeah.
Mobile payment, that's clearly a must-have, right? So I have to say, when you just look in terms of the consumer behavior and also how younger generation is signing up, for instance, into our loyalty program, it's an absolutely must-have to offer all sorts of mobile payments. So I think this is really something specifically into the age bracket of 25 to 35. You definitely would need to have mobile payments. Specifically, what we see now more and more coming up is QR-based solutions. It's very easy to integrate. Also from integrations, from an operating perspective, low cost profile, which is also important to us, obviously, as we have so many point of sales out there. So I think it's a win-win on both ends. Your second point in terms of the authentication, I think here what I would see basically as the trend going forward, the authentication will most likely always remain on the user's device in the near future, meaning that the user can choose basically on his or her preference. Do I want to opt in for facial recognition? Do I want to use my fingerprints? So I think this is basically those areas where I would say it's clearly coming to a trend where we see different on a country by country basis, different consumer patterns. Yeah. I think the challenging part will become going forward now in terms of how quickly we can roll this out. There are quite a lot of changes coming up when you talk about regulations around data privacy, data protection. I think this is where we always need to be very careful. How do we as an operator of so many machines can comply to those standards and can make sure that we really have the best solution, the best mobile payment solution for our clients?
Incredible. Now, that really does highlight this. Again, it's been concurrent already, is looking at the customer. What does the customer want? And trying to work around that. And one thing that has certainly given freedom of payment is obviously your latest release, which has been looking into blockchain and crypto payments. So, what will the freedom of paying in this, this much variety mean for people's perceptions of vending machines in Europe?
Yes. So I have to say that we basically started and did more a trial to really see, first and foremost, also to learn internally, how much time does it need? What are the technical capabilities that you would need to have in place so that you can offer that kind of modern payment solution to our clients? Firstly, also open up, because let's say a vending machine, that's a very heavy item, right? You have your basically your CapEx investment, shelves and your operations, so you wouldn't directly think about how to jump to that point here. So we thought, how can we reinvent this whole consumer experience, and how can we make sure that they digitize this in the best way? And we thought about, if we see now that the consumers are more and more getting acquainted to crypto payments, we also would need to think about how can we integrate this payment solution into our ways of operation. Yeah. And then we did a quick check in terms of what are basically blockchains that would allow us in a cost-effective way to hook on, basically do all the kind of necessary steps that we can basically integrate blockchain payments into our operations. And then we came up with this modern technology stack that allows us to basically use Solana as a blockchain, and you can use all kind of coins that are basically on the Solana blockchain going forwards. So this was first kind of a pilot, so that we can see also how the consumers are reacting to this modern payment solution. And I have to say the feedback, we tried this in 2023 during Solana blockchain event in Amsterdam, and the feedback was just amazing. I mean, if during the course of those days, 5 days in total that we were there with our machines, we saw almost that 2/3 of the whole operations, the whole purchases on the machines were basically done and carried out via Solana cryptocurrency.
There we go. I mean, it really does highlight just the power of partnerships in this industry, and congratulations once again. I think it's very exciting. Now, this really does highlight a strong commitment that you have when it comes to innovating. You know, you're definitely not an organization that's trying to, or an institution that's trying to just kind of play with the book by the numbers, you know, to use an idiom, and you actively seem to be looking for new sources of innovation. So, I mean, can I ask, how do you, in your role, identify what these new payment methods will be, or what the latest innovation will be? How do you stay ahead of the times?
Yeah, that's a great question, Doug. And I think the important thing is that you always, what we call internally is a J&A, a joint needs analysis. It's basically always understanding what are those needs that our consumers have. So the closer you stay connected to your consumers, to your clients, the better it is, so that we also can derive what are now the next steps that our consumers want. I'll give you the example. We talk a lot about obviously mobile payment here, but we shouldn't also forget that there's basically a clear shift in terms of consumer behavior, and also in terms of demand. What does the client want? Whilst in the past we had, let's say, long life shelf products such as candy bars, we clearly see now this is no longer the case. The client wants healthy snacks, fresh foods. So similar to terms of shifting from a payment perspective, we also see that the whole point of sales operations, the whole experience is changing a lot. And this being in the details and checking basically what our consumers want, both from a payment and also from a consumption perspective, that is basically what we're using and how we think now forward in terms of being ahead of the curve. Now, if you think this in broader terms, we have more than 300,000 point of sales out there. So we really have a lot of touch points where you can clearly see what is running well, where we need to improve further, and then a constant feedback that we get from our clients via our experience centers. This is basically how we leverage the insights where we need to improve on going forward.
Absolutely incredible, and this has been such a theme throughout the conversation, as I've mentioned before. But thank you for kind of telling us the kind of methodology behind how you understand the customer, because a lot of organizations will say, oh, we obviously look into what the customer wants, what the trends are, but you've actually identified an actual system to finding that out, and it's going to be very exciting to see with the innovation you come up with in the future. Now, we've come to time, Roland, so I have to quickly speed up, and I just want to ask, this is such a what you've told me in terms of your moves in the blockchain and crypto space. Really, it's been such a massive leap. Let's be honest, for the industry, for a segment of payments that is often, I don't want to use the term maybe vilified, but it's exciting and to see how this is changing. Do you think this is going to have worldwide repercussions for real world use cases for crypto and blockchain usage?
That's a very good point. I think that this time being most likely more of a pilot phase, and we will constantly need to see how it's really adopting in real life. Specifically, the event that I was making reference to earlier, that was in a closed loop environment. But of course, we are now really doing internal studies how to best utilize and bring this more to a more global trends. I'm not seeing at this point in time, to be very transparent, that we will, going forward on every machine, need to have this mobile payment solution. I think it will always make sense in certain locations where we have also more frequent international traffic and footfall. I think these will be the spots where we currently are really doing internal studies on, in terms of, is that not really something where we should offer crypto payment going forwards? But to operate now in a kind of a mainstream approach, I think that would be not beneficial. There's clearly some, let's say, a bit more of a development also from a consumer behavior required. But putting this in certain areas, in place now. I think this is exactly what we need to find out over the next couple of days.
Well, it shows that you're not innovating for innovation's sake. You're actually, again, going back to what the customer wants and applying the demands that you have. And it makes sense when, with the Crypto Valley, I imagine you have quite a lot of insight on that. So, Roland, I want to say a massive thank you for your insights. It's been absolutely fascinating. And as someone that loves a handy bag of crisps every now and then, I want to say a massive thank you. So thank you very much for joining.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Have a nice day. Thank you.
Cheers. Now, you can catch the rest of the series and so much more over at payable.com and, of course, FF News, where you'll see me and the rest of the show too. Thank you very much, Roland, and goodbye.